Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the September 8th, 2022 edition, the season opener edition for the Rams. And it is brought to you by Temple City Auto Repair. If you need some help with an auto issue, then you need some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. Okay, talk is cheap and game time is only 7 hours away. But one of the things you learn, and I'm glad to be back. I missed about a week here. I did my koi bacon thing a week ago, and it was good. I love to talk about koi bacon, but then I had stuff to do, and I figured let's get it done before the season starts, because I'm hopefully going to be right about a lot of things. And whether I'm right or wrong, I'm still going to be here. But if I'm right about a lot of things, then I'm going to be a real pain in the neck. And I want to be that. I want to be the guy that go, dude, shut up. You're always talking about how you got this score right or something. That's who I want to be. That's who I aspire to be. But anyway, on a serious note, you know what I love about football is football, you only need a couple of great, right? I mean, think of the ratio. In the NBA, right, you need a 1 and a 2 and a kind of sort of 3. In football, right, you got a starting 11 on either side of the ball. How many greats do you need? Rams had Aaron Donald. Rams had Jalen Ramsey. And I guess you could say Von Miller. Von Miller was instrumental in the playoffs, but I don't know if Von Miller during the season was that instrumental. But, you know, they lined up with Greg Gaines, Ashawn Robinson, Justin Hollins. They won a Super Bowl with Troy Reeder at middle linebacker, a geriatric Eric Weddle, Nick Scott. Think of the guys they pulled out, you know, David Long and everything. Dante Dion, right? I'd like to see Dante Dion get some love. And so they had a lot of solid. And solid is important. I like solid. Solid means you don't have to pay them great prices, but you can pay them solid prices, right? And solid, you win with solid. I love solid. And this morning, you know, when you look at what's taking place out there, the Rams do have something really solid, right? Solid bears a strange resemblance to a cat named Rob Havenstein, right? And it's another season, and the Rams still have a right tackle, and he'll be that right tackle through the 2025 season. And he got some money because he just got paid, and that's Rob Havenstein. He's literally going to be the Rams' starting tackle, right tackle for 11 years, right? Now, Jackie Slater was the starting right tackle from 79 through 93. Before that, John Williams was starting right tackle from 73 through 78. So the Rams have had some good ones, but the right tackle gets really underrated. Now, Jackie Slater ended up in the Hall of Fame, played so long, played very well, but John Williams is very solid. And Rob Havenstein, he usually ranks inside the top 15, top 10 of tackles in the NFL. And that means he's got to rank probably top 5 of right tackles. And, you know, he was a free agent at the end of this year. And I didn't speculate much because I just said he's a free agent because you don't know what the Rams are thinking half the time. You don't know. Maybe if somebody had developed, they figured they'd save the dough and put him in there. But Alaric Jackson is probably a couple years away. You know, AJ Curry, if they can develop him, they're still in the Bobby Evans business. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But for right now, Ram fans can say hallelujah. He will be the starting right tackle through the 2025 season. 3 years, $34 million, 24 of those rocks are guaranteed. He's getting 11.5 annually. That is a big statement. And that is great news. I love the offensive line getting taken care of. Is Rob Havenstein going to the Hall of Fame? No, he hasn't even gone to a Pro Bowl. But you know what the Rams did? The Rams won a Super Bowl with him at right tackle and haven't had to worry about the position since he was drafted and they were still in St. Louis, right? That's something to think about. Other stuff before we get to the game tonight. Mick Snead, Sean McVay, and Les Snead, all that stuff is locked up through the 2026 season, so that'll be fun. It'll be fun to see them play through this Aaron Donald era. It'll be fun to see them play through probably the end of the Matt Stafford era. And then it'll be interesting to see the next moves they make, right? It makes you wonder, will there be a point somewhere along the way where they say, well, we can't exactly say blank them picks just yet. We have to hold on to them because there might be another quarterback we have to go after or some established star we need to go after. All right, cool. I am Joe Terosian, and this is RamView. You can follow me at joeterosian.com where I post Ram Cave. Didn't post for a week. I know I'm taking hits on it, but I did post my college football breakdown column. That's up at joetarosian.com. And if you go back and look at under the NFL, you're going to see a really cool thing there on Coy Bacon, former Ram, who also wore number 79, same number as Rob Havenstein. And so I'm also your RamView on YouTube, and this is always converted into podcasts on Spreaker, at iHeart, and at Spotify. And I've been told I'm on Odyssey, and that's cool too. So you can check us out through podcasts. Please hit like, subscribe, review, leave questions, comments. I so appreciate them, and I appreciate all the support we've been receiving, and that's really encouraging. I just thank you for the side notes and all those things you folks send. I do appreciate it. I am the pastor of a small church in Burbank, but I also supplement my income writing. I was a sports writer, paid sports writer for 21 years, and now I write books. And my high school football novels, Tangent Dreams and Temple City Company of the Ages, are out on Amazon and have done very well, had some good reviews. I've also written some explicitly Christian novels that you can check out over there at Amazon. All right. So the biggies going into tonight, before we get into prediction time, and the thing I'm going to say is going to tick everybody off, if indeed you're watching. Van Jefferson is out. He wasn't pupped. I really thought he'd be pupped, and therefore extended the Rams keep somebody else on the roster for a while. But he's out this week. I don't know what that means for next week. He doesn't play tonight. That means he gets 10 days until week 2. So now we get to see Tutu Atwell and Ben Skoranek, right? Skoranek and Atwell were held out during the preseason, which sends the message that they're involved in the offense heavily this year. Skoranek, for all the heat he took, was a guy taking significant steps in the Super Bowl, caught a couple passes. Yeah, we know what he did. And he blocks really well. And then you got Tutu Atwell, as I've said before, should be stepping into the role that Deshaun Jackson was supposed to take last year. And Atwell will be the burner, take the top off, yada, yada, yada. Maybe he'll get a couple of jet sweeps, although we don't want to see him get hit. But it'll be interesting to see how the Rams play it. So that part's kind of exciting. Also, you got to remember this. The Rams won a Super Bowl last year, was solid, right? Andrew Whitworth was the star of the offensive line. No doubt he's going to Canton, likely. But then alongside him were David Edwards, Brian Allen, Austin Corbett, and Rob Havenstein. Well, Whitworth retired, and Corbett is in Carolina, I think. And the Rams are coming back with David Edwards, Brian Allen, and Rob Havenstein. So that group, those three there, know how to win a Super Bowl. So that's all good. On the spot tonight are Joe Noteboom, who got paid. I think the Rams, I think Noteboom's getting 14. Is it 13, 14? So the Rams got about 25 rocks tied up into their tackles going forward. They've invested in those tackles. So Joe Noteboom, the curtain comes up on his career after a 4-year apprenticeship, and so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for him. And Coleman Shelton, who the Rams paid, I'm not going to say big money to, but for a guy that was a free agent, right? I think he was in the 49ers camp, undrafted, and then he ended up with the Rams. Rams developed him the last couple of years, and now he's a starting right guard. It'll be interesting to say now that these guys have been effectively put into the starting lineup, how they go and how they produce. And if you look at the track record, the Rams have been pretty fortunate. There was more concerns about center last year with a new quarterback who was in his 13th year, and the Rams didn't draft Creed Humphrey, right? I know I said a bad word there, right? The Rams didn't draft Creed Humphrey. They let Austin Blythe go, and everyone was wondering, like, oh, man, what are the Rams going to do at center? And then we had seen Brian Allen play in 2019. We didn't see him in 2020, and no one was crazy about Brian Allen, and he ends up being a top 7, top 8 center in the league. He had a fantastic year, and no one's worried about Brian Allen anymore. So keep an eye on the offensive line. Joseph Noteboom at left tackle, Coleman Shelton at right guard. Also, the other edge spot, you got Leonard Floyd, and then we're going to go into the season like we did last year with Justin Hollins. Now, what people might forget is the first 2 weeks of the season, Justin Hollins graded out wonderfully against, I believe it was both the Bears and the Colts before he injured his pec, right? He was out for a significant portion during the middle of the season. And so expect Justin Hollins to be solid. Is he going to be, Von Miller? No. But, the Rams do have some rotation there. They have Terrell Lewis, who they're waiting to break through. And so it'll be interesting to see. And also Keir Thomas, who had an excellent preseason Of course, that doesn't mean anything, but the Rams got some depth there. But you really want to watch is Justin Hollins, who came to the Rams a couple years ago, drafted by the Broncos. They cut him loose, but the Rams saw value there. They developed him. He became a starter last year, and it'll be interesting to see how it starts out. Also, what you want to keep an eye on before we get to the corners is you want to talk about the safeties, right? Taylor Rapp, Jordan Fuller, and Nick Scott didn't play down in the preseason. According to the PFF depth chart, Taylor Rapp is starting alongside Jordan Fuller. I don't know how you feel about that. Of course, Raheem Morris makes the final call there. But personally, give me some Nick Scott. Give me some Nick Scott. Give us all some Nick Scott, okay? We've seen Taylor Rapp. And it'll be interesting when you think of Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, and what the Bills do. Where's Taylor Rapp? Because we know Taylor Rapp struggles in coverage. So keep a count, look at the game afterwards, or just visually make a mental note of how many snaps these guys are getting. Right now, the Rams play that high shell, those two high safeties. So sometimes they're not on the screen, but when they come forward to make a tackle, just take note of who's in the game, when, and how often they're in there, because Nick Scott should receive significant playing time. We know what Tyler Burgess is. We know what Russ East is at this point. And so it should be those three. Keep an eye on them. David Long gets the job at the boundary corner, and it'll probably be Troy Hill, definitely be Troy Hill in the slot. And that'll be interesting to see because Robert Rochelle played well during the preseason. So the Rams got some depth there. We haven't even talked about Darian Kendrick or Jacoby Durant. And so that'll be interesting. And they all made the team. That'll be interesting to see the Rams' depth there. Also, I thought it was interesting when you were watching the 2021 Rams, Sean McVay, we, not me thing last night, which was cool. I thought it was interesting that, there's always the talk about, was Jalen Ramsey beat deep? Was he not? Did he fall on that last play? They talk about Taylor. They talk about Aaron Donald's tackle and toss of Joe Burrow and him heaving the ball. And we've even talked about A'Shawn Robinson stepping up on the previous downs. They didn't talk about it last night. But that was the first time last night. And again, it helps with our eyes to have somebody else just don't follow the ball, right? To hear Raheem Morris talk about David Long's slight pause on that slant route, that he didn't just go with the receiver to the outside. He was on the slot receiver, and the slot receiver broke outside on that game's final play, on the Bengals' final play. But instead of just racing with him, he kind of took a step back and held his spot for a moment. And that took away the inside route for Joe Burrow that caused maybe a split second of a half second delay. I thought it was really cool that Raheem Morris mentioned that, and it makes you look at David Long just a little bit different. But count the snaps the cornerbacks take tonight. Again, Buffalo is bringing in Stephon Diggs, Dawson Allen, Gabe Davis, quarterback named Josh Allen. We'll see. I've heard about this guy. Also, there's that moral dilemma that Ram fans have. If you have a player on the opposite team that's on your fantasy squad, like I got Stephon Diggs, I have a saying that goes with that. My real life team always comes first before my fantasy team. So my phrase for that is, when you got wine, you don't need bread, right? Bread is the staple that allows you to talk trash, but emotionally you're tied to your team, and that's the wine. That's what you love, right? And although I don't drink wine, I don't like wine that much. But when you got wine, you don't need bread. And as long as the Rams are winning, I don't care if my fantasy team goes 0-14. It doesn't matter. But Stephon Diggs, the newly paid Dawson Knox, and Gabe Davis, keep an eye on them, as well as Josh Allen. And I've always liked their running back, Devin Singletary. I think they're a little weak there, and that speaks to the Bills' offensive line. I think the Rams' D-line is better than the Bills' offensive line. They got a lot of little bit of solid there. The Rams have great, and they have a little solid to above in Greg Gaines and A'Shawn Robinson. You know why? Because they won a Super Bowl with those guys. All right. And obviously the Rams receivers are vastly better than the Bills corners, and that's where it could get real dicey. Now, with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, who is playing tonight, the Bills do have safeties that are exceptional. I mean, they are top 10 safeties in the league, but their corners are just, it's a wasteland there at corner for them. And the Rams could really brutalize that if the solid offensive line play of the Rams can give, Stafford that time. And there's the thing, and this is where I'm not going to make people happy. The Rams have their ring, and recognize it's a brutal 17-game season in front of them as we come up to the 15-minute mark. It is a brutal 17-game season for the Rams. But the hardest schedule in the NFL, besides their own division, they have a brutal schedule that includes the AFC West. And so really they've already got their ring, and now it's probably about using wisdom and taking the games carefully one at a time, of course, without getting too caught up. And while, of course, they want to win, As a Rams fan, I want them to win. Everyone wants them to win. The Rams want to win. And they can win. And they might win. They probably, maybe they could win, right? But this isn't their Super Bowl. The Rams already got their Super Bowl. This isn't their Super Bowl. They don't have to prove anything to anybody. They have to just remain that dangerous team that everyone has to think about, stay healthy, and get through this season and pick up W's along the way when they really count. For the Bills in a jam-packed AFC, this feels like a must-win statement, right? Must-win, a statement, early season Super Bowl type thing. They got to get out there because the AFC is jam-packed, right? And so they really have to do something here, I believe. And I believe that makes them just a tiny bit more desperate. Again, the Rams could brutalize those corners. The Rams could, again, they're going to come out with wrinkles. You know anything about Sean McVay. You could watch Jeff Fisher run the Rams in 2014, and you knew how he was going to run the Rams in 2016. There were no surprises. But where you see the Rams and McVay and the whole McSnead era, it's all about innovation. It's all about, changing things up. It's all about keeping the opponents on their toes. And so the Rams could win this game, and they could win it significantly. But just looking at and giving the Bills their due and not speaking like a fanboy, I believe the Bills are a little bit more desperate. And I woke up the other night and I just thought, Bills are going to win 27-17. I know it's terrible. I know. Everyone's going to think, oh, he's not a Rams fan. Well, let me just share. If you want to talk Rams history and tears shed over the Rams, I'll bump with any and all of you. I'll bang with anybody about Rams history and fandom. But I refuse to be a fanboy. If just something is speaking to you differently, you got to say something. And I just have a feeling. Buffalo 27-17. You can disown me if you want. I don't want it to happen. I'll be perfectly happy if it doesn't happen. But I guarantee you, if the game ends 27-17 and the final gun goes off at 8:31, at 8:33, I'm going to be on here talking my head off about, hey, you should listen to me. Okay? And here's the other thing as Rams fans. You can't get emotional, all right? You've already got your Super Bowl. You should recognize what this franchise is. It's brilliant. As Ram fans, we're qualified to recognize brilliant because we've had incompetence nearly our whole lives as Ram fans. Anybody that's alive, probably just going back to the Rosenblum era, maybe the Reeves era for some of my friends. There was always some little bit of incompetence. I liked Carol Rosenblum, but Carol Rosenblum made mistakes. And of course, she who must not be named took control of the team. And Kroenke, to his credit, has backed off, opened the purse strings and said, what do you need? And he's allowed the brains in the room to do it. This is the golden era. This is something we could only dream of, right? So we don't have to be emotional and get all panicky. They're going to fix this. Even when you go the whole month of November without a win, 1 bye and 3 losses, you still ended up in the Super Bowl, right? So don't panic when they lose tonight or if they lose tonight, because this is what's going to happen. Oh, man, Stafford's lost it. Oh, man, McVay's an idiot. Oh, man, get rid of Skoranek. Oh, man, Tutu sucks. Oh, man, we know this routine, but we have a team that's better than that and deserves better than that. Don't get caught up. I could easily see the Rams losing 5, maybe 6 games and still winning the Super Bowl. That's how brutal their schedule is. Of course, the Rams could win tonight, but it wouldn't be a surprise if they don't. And that's why I'm just leaning Buffalo 27-17. And I'm okay with a 3-1 start to the season, right? If that 3-1 start includes wins over Frisco and Arizona, right? We're not going to lose to the Falcons in week 2. And this game here, win or lose, it's likely all about having film for February if we see each other in the playoffs, right? If the Rams face the Bills in the postseason in the Super Bowl, it's all about having film. They'll have some film. We'll have something to go back and talk about. But the games we need to win, especially early on this first month of the season, we got to win against Frisco. We got to win against Arizona, set the template, need to go undefeated with this brutal schedule the Rams have. They need to go undefeated in their division. Have to go undefeated in their division and let everything else fall into place. So don't get too worked up about this Bills game. Finally, the Rams-Bills played 13 times since the merger. Rams are 5-8 against them. They won the first 2 games. So literally the Rams have lost 8 of the last 11 meetings between them. I was at the 1974 game. Yeah, it was really good. I was at the 1974 game. Rams won 19-14. James Harris scored on a rollout right in front of me. It's one of the few times we sat at the open end, but we were sitting down low. We thought we loved it during warmups, and I loved it when Harris ran into the right side of the end zone with a touchdown. I love that because it was like he's coming right at us. But here was the problem. Those seats were what the late Jim Healy, if you lived in LA, you know who Jim Healy is. He was what they were what Jim Healy would describe as of the horseshoe variety. And what I mean of the horseshoe variety, they were about $6, $7. I think it was the final regular season game. The Bills, they made a good showing. This is the OJ team. They made the playoffs. JD Hill called Jack Youngblood a honky, and I know Isaiah Robertson got upset. That was in the papers and stuff. But you couldn't see from where we were. The players were blocking all the action. You couldn't see anything unless the ball was right in front of you. And so I never knew what Jim Healy meant in terms of horseshoe variety until I think back to those seats at the Coliseum, which the whole Coliseum in those days was of the horseshoe variety. And we couldn't see any action. So the closer we were, the seats weren't raised like they are now. But I was at the 74 game. Yeah, I saw the Bills play. And the Bills have only won once in Los Angeles. That was October 9th, 2016. That has the Fisher collapse began. If you remember in 2016, the Rams came back to LA, traveled to Frisco on Monday night, and lost 28-0 to Blaine Gabbert. And then they won 3 in a row. Looked like everything had turned. Welcome home to LA. Everything's going to be great. And then they lost to Buffalo 30-19, and the collapse began, right? I think the Rams finished 4-12, and there was that game against Atlanta where essentially, Snead Kiffined Jeff Fisher, so to speak, right? They weren't on a tarmac, but he canned them. The interesting thing about that Rams-Bills game in 2016 is Nickel Roby-Coleman had a 41-yard pick six return for a touchdown. That was pretty good, right? Of course, he was playing for Buffalo that day. We didn't get him until a year later. But yeah, some interesting stuff there. All right, we hit the 23-minute mark, and I didn't intend going that long, but thank you so much for clicking on. I'm Joe Terosian. I will try to be back late at night, not so gloating or anything, and talking Rams football. And tonight's game should be exciting. I just kind of hope the Hollywood people stay out because they gum up the works. If I got to sit and hear The Rock do some intro, if I got to hear how everyone's all excited about Ozzy Osbourne, folks, come on. Ozzy on his crazy train. The only thing that matters is Rams football and where the Rams train is taking us. All right, folks. God bless. Take care. Hit like, spread the love. Leave comments. You can attack me if you want, or say something. Subscribe and pick us up on podcast. I was told, do a podcast, and very few people are listening to the podcast, but that's okay. Life goes on. Thank you so much. I'm Joe Terosian, and we will talk to you soon on RamView.